Okay, we have officially started the webinar and we will wait for a few seconds until attendees are joining in. Great. Welcome everyone. Good morning, good afternoon, good evening from different parts of region where you're joining from. This is the Voices of Community December edition. As you all know, Voices of Community is a monthly talk show that we run, and this time we have utilized to bring in the much awaited LambdaTest Spartans, an initiative that I've announced in the closing keynote along with my colleague Kavya in TestMu conference last year. So early this year, and here we are live. I think last couple of weeks and days we have been posting about it. If you're following, and I have these wonderful people along this space. A quick hi to all of you. Thank you so much for joining. Thank you so much. All right, let's get started, and welcome to our panel discussion on what changed for the testing and QA community and what lies ahead. That's the core theme of the panel discussion. And if you have any questions, please go to the Q&A panel and ask questions. It is an exciting day for us as we host the LambdaTest Spartans, our community evangelists, as we say, who are the leading industry experts in the testing and QA space, all of you at one stage. So these experts from the community are here to share their insights and experiences on the changes within the testing and QA field, as well as their predictions for the future. So predictions for the future, yeah, it's a bit scary, but hopefully, all the experiences that we have learned from the past year will come in handy, so we can see what each and every one of you think, in this panelist about, where testing goes in the next couple of years. And with that, I am Manoj Kumar, and I head the DevRel and Office of Open Source at LambdaTest. And especially one of the main reasons where we wanted to bring up this topic is we've all seen where technology has taken us in past couple of years after rapidly and how testing quality assurance in general have been impacted significantly, especially around the cloud adoption, agile development methodologies, and I think along with that the increasing importance of quality and automated testing have also been risen enough. So the purpose of this panel is to explore the fundamental changes within the testing and quality assurance community and explain how they have impacted testers and quality assurance professionals. Our discussion will also focus on the future, looking ahead to future challenges and opportunities, the testing quality assurance community. So without further ado, let me introduce you to the panelists for the discussion. So today in this panel, we have to begin with Pricillia, Bilavendran, a passionate test engineer currently working at Billenium IT services from Malaysia with a decade of experience in quality assurance. Pricillia, thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you for having me, Manoj.
And next we have Wasiq Bhamla, a test automation specialist having more than a decade and a half experience in manual and automation testing, and as a lead QA engineer at Xnsio. Wasiq, thank you for joining us.
Yeah, thanks for having me on the.
We're glad to have you as well. And then we have Naveen, founder of Naveen Automation Labs. He's a leading expert in the field of testing and automation. He's been upskilling a lot of people with his generosity in putting up free videos on YouTube with over 300 subscribers. He's a valuable resource for anyone looking to improve their skills in testing and test automation. Naveen, we're so happy to have you here.
Thank you so much, Manoj. Thanks for having me here.
And Brijesh, a principal consultant with Infosys, over 2 decades of experience in leading, managing, and coaching teams on software testing and embracing the agile mindset. Brijesh, so happy to have you here as well.
Thank you so much, Manoj, for having me.
And of course, last but not the least, we have Parveen Khan, a senior QA consultant at ThoughtWorks. Being a quality advocate, she believes delivering high quality products is everyone's responsibility. Parveen, thank you for joining us today.
Thank you so much for having me, Manoj.
Thank you. With that, we're excited to hear from our panelists and engage in a lively discussion on this topic. But before that, I wanted to quickly share my screen and wanted to walk you through about some of one of the initiatives that we have started with. Wanted to really tell you what LambdaTest Spartans is all about. I hope my screen is visible. You can see the LambdaTest Spartans. Cool. So For those of you who have been following our updates, LambdaTestspartans is our ambassador community advocacy program for innovators, builders, and change makers, including community evangelists who are transforming the testing in the QA world. So the people as a panelist in the call are in a way who has been transforming the testing and quality in general in various different formats, being it creating videos on YouTube or creating thought leadership content in a form of written blogs, or conferences, or joining panel discussions, or even open sourcing frameworks around automation tools at GitHub and various different initiatives, right? So we wanted to bring all of them at one platform, and that's the real goal for LambdaTestspartans. So as I mentioned, it's actually for people who deeply care about the testing community. Even if you are being an enthusiast or an expert or even a novice who are getting started, but you're passionate about quality and what it means to you, I think LambdaTestspartans is the way for you. If you're really wondering about what the LambdaTestspartans will do, well, they've actually, whatever they have been doing so far, we will empower them to do with various resources that we might have. We will collaborate with them, we will engage with them, we will help them share their learnings on different platforms, and of course, be inclusive. And LambdaTestspartans, as we've always said, community is at the heart of our LambdaTest, and I wanted to thank our leadership for spearheading this initiative. And here is our message from our CEO Asad Khan, who says, we have gained and learned a lot from community, and LambdaTestspartans is a way of contributing back to the community. And Jay Singh, our co-founder, says LambdaTest is the bridge that will connect the best minds in the space, and I'm so glad it's already happening. We have different people, at the backstage just before starting the webinar. I've just asked a question, how many of you met each other? Persons here, and the percentage is very less, right? I think that's really what the connection that we wanted to make, and and you could imagine the power of people collaborating together, and that's what Manish Sharma, our CEO at LambdaTest, says. Spartans will collaborate with each other, innovate together, and deeply engage with growing QA community. So to the Spartans here who joined in as a panelist today, thank you so much again for being part of LambdaTestspartans, and as well as being at panelist today. And in the first batch of Spartans, these are the people who have been selected and nominated for various different community people, and have been made it into the LambdaTest Spartans program. And in this, we couldn't have everyone as part of the panel today, but we are so glad we had, Wasiq, Pricillia, Parveen, Naveen, and Brijesh could join us, and Rahul, Srinivasan, Larry, we couldn't meet you here, but I think we will definitely catch you up with, further editions that we might have. And if this is interesting, and if you wanted to be part of Spartans, well, yes, you could very well go to lambdatest.com/Spartans program, and you could apply, and that's it. We will evaluate your profile. I think we have one important question that you should answer on why you're joining LambdaTest Spartan. I think that will be really critical and key. So spend time, pen your thoughts, and let us know why do you want to join Spartans, and we will reveal the Spartans every quarter. That's the timeline that we have taken, because we've got a volume of applicants already, and we will have to carefully evaluate them. So yeah, go ahead and apply for Spartans if this sounds interesting to you, and you could be part of this elite set of people who are already there and waiting to get started with the questions. With that, I will actually stop sharing, and we can get started with the questions. All right, so how are you all?
I'm good.
I'm good.
Good, Manoj.
Yeah.
Awesome,
Year end,
awesome.
right? We are
Great,
getting ready for
absolutely.
holidays.
Yeah, so
Absolutely. We will not hold you back. We've got another 40 minutes or so. We will get through the questions quickly. All right, my first question today, and I wanted this to be a round of table, so everyone will get an opportunity to answer this. So here it goes. If you were to reflect on the last year, what, according to you, have been the biggest changes, trends in the QA world? Let's go alphabetical order. Let's start with Brijesh.
Okay. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay. So this last year has been quite interesting in terms of, we've seen the proliferation of technology or say tools which were, being discussed in the previous years, but last year in 2022, we have seen the rise of low code, no code testing tools. That has been one significant change. I have so far evaluated around 87 tools, and the list is just growing. And, there are some really good ones. There are some which need to do some more work, but that has been one pattern. We've also seen the rise in the technology trends. Of course, the last few years belong to fintech, but 2022, in my opinion, belonged to sports tech. Okay, where we've seen a rise in the kind of applications in the technologies, and that's where people have had to think of innovative ways to test. Health tech is something for the future, and there's considerable work that has been done in that segment. Energy has been one of the other sectors which has picked up quite a lot, especially after the war started. There was concerns, and that's some sector. So, from a tech perspective, there has been these changes, and obviously that has triggered the change in the way we think about testing. So for me, these were the big ones.
Thank you. Naveen?
Yeah. Can you hear me?
Yep, very well.
Okay. Yeah, so absolutely I agree with Brijesh. But I think for the QA testing point of view, there are many changes happened. Start with automation. Automation was already there from last couple of years. In fact, from last 1 decade. But majorly transition happened because of, a lot of people started using Selenium 4, Playwright. A lot of new releases are happening with respect to Cypress. A lot of good practices people are starting implementing with respect to, I think, CI/CD pipelines. People are moving from Jenkins to GitLab, GitHub Actions, Azure DevOps, more and more environment and infrastructure setup with the, your software framework development processes and everything. People are now getting to know the value of tester-driven development, and I think BDD. People now don't talk shit about BDD now. At least I can see the level of maturity in terms of BDD. People started asking and vocal about when to use BDD, when not to use BDD. Is it a right implementation or not? And I think the open source community is building really strong from especially last year, when Selenium 4 came into the picture, and Playwright and other libraries which are developing like anything. And I think that's a great transition happened. And I'm sure that people will continue the same trend for next couple of years as well, especially with the testing processes, more and more mature automation test models, more CI/CD integration pipelines, and moving to the cloud technologies. I think this is the major change that I have seen in 2022.
Wonderful. Wants to go first? It's Parveen.
Yeah. I think I absolutely agree with what Naveen and Brijesh has mentioned. And especially for me, I think what I have, if I reflect back, if I see back what was all about 2022, it was more of the teams around, quality coaches, quality advocates within the teams, and looking at various, it's all about test automation and looking at the whole complete holistic quality within the teams, how a tester can share those knowledges and have those skills within the team. And I think I've seen this quite a lot in this 2022, and of course a lot of communities coming up, and a lot of testers sharing their experiences and their knowledge from across the world. I think I've seen this a lot in 2022. And yeah, I think this was the major things that have been for me, the change that I've seen in 2022.
Cool. Pricillia?
Yeah, sure. Manoj, I'm going. So yeah, as we all spoke about, it's been a post-COVID era, right? So we were settling down to the normalcy, and we were even confused, like which is a new normal and all those things. So when it comes to testing, it was the same thing. Like digitalization has been improved a lot. We were having a lot of web apps and mobile apps. So obviously, then when it comes to testing, we'll have the equivalent of work, right? What I have seen as a greatest challenge is like since we have a lot of tools, tool selection is one of the greatest challenge that we see because it's spoiled by choices. We have a lot of choices, and we have to do a deeper research when compared to the previous years. And also, I strongly agree with Parveen, like when she mentioned about communities, that's excellent thing which happened in 2022. And I also see that people are so focused towards the other flavors of testing. Like they are focusing towards security, not only with the functional testing, security, performance, accessibility, UI based testing. So all those testings, I see that people are really coming up and they see that as not just as a kind of like a career improvement or something. They are doing it with passion. So I see these are the things that I can mention, Manoj. Thank you.
Awesome. I just wanted to quickly break the flow and welcome Larry. Hi, Larry. Thanks for joining us.
Yeah, thank you, guys. Timing. I could have swear it was 3:30. I realized it wasn't that, so sorry for jumping in late.
No worries. We're just going around the table on the first question that I've asked. So maybe you could start preparing. So Wasiq is the last person to answer. So once Wasiq has answered that, you could probably answer next. So the question was, if you were to reflect on the last year, what according to you have been the biggest changes, trends in the QA world?
Okay.
Wasiq, you can go ahead while Larry can take a moment.
Yeah, hope I am audible.
Yes.
So according to me, like what changes or trends I've seen in the QA world is like there is an overall increase in the automated testing because there are high demand for continuous deployment and early release to production, which we can see there. It is increasing in the many organizations. Apart from that, I have also seen like adoption of testing pyramids and shift left approach and all that thing as increasing like sorry. It is increasing in the traditional replacing the traditional automation approach. Apart from that, there are also increase in development of mobile applications which require us to think from a mobile or testing perspective and automation perspective. And there are like also like new trends are coming up in API testing where we can see like increase in contract testing kind of thing, like contract testing and schema validation. There are plenty of things which I can recollect now, like there is a increase in security testing, performance testing, user experience, like visual regression testing and all. So all these are I can see coming up in the last year. And we should not forget the blockchain and Web3 also like coming up. So all those applications require a completely different expertise to and try like innovative approach to do the testing on such kind of applications. And not to forget about the metaverse and the AR/VR.
Absolutely. You've touched upon all the upcoming trends.
Yeah.
Thanks, Wasiq. Larry, do you want to go next?
I mean, yeah, for me, just to add on to what a lot of people are saying, I mean, from my point of view, a lot of things that especially that coming in for this new year, and I mean, a lot of it is all about AI. No matter how you look at it, it's about some aspect of AI. And especially when you look at the whole trends that are going on now, it's just now we have AI where we're looking at simple things, and now we have the new kid on the block, ChatGPT. The new kid on the block who writing code and all for and where that goes into the future. Yeah, I had to play around with it as well. So especially I think for me, that was one of the biggest changes that they had, inclusive of the whole contract testing and thing from an API point of view. I think one of the biggest changes for this year and this last 18 months or so was the introduction of AI, AI into the whole work stream. And how different companies are looking at it. And so my biggest take into that is not from a QA point of view so much to say, but where do companies and how do companies see this whole AI thing interrupting that whole QA flow and you know the thing they don't like to talk about. Who paying for it?
Cool. Thanks, Larry. I think to summarize, thanks for all of you for sharing your thoughts. I think definitely there is an advent of cloud adoption, agile, as I mentioned earlier, and then now the tools like AI is there, community, and then low code, no code versions, and also I've also seen increasingly demand for non-functional or cross-functional testing requirements, as they say. People have started to realize, and there was always a conversation about generalist versus specialist. I think back in days when I was playing a senior tester or a role like that, we used to have a specialist role like a performance test engineer. I think the trend are gone. I think people right now are extending and learning as much as tools and the concepts behind performance testing or security, accessibility. I think that is also one of the trends that I've seen. I think certainly agree to it. And I think as Wasiq mentioned, there is no new tools like Web3, technologies like Web3, and then AR, VR, metaverse, and all of it. So it'll be interesting to see how testing can be done. And hopefully we can bring in some guests to talk about how do we test the technology in the future edition of Voice of Community. With that, we'll go into the next one. We have always said quality is everyone's responsibility, but how have you personally implemented it? Any thoughts and tips? Parveen, do you want to share any thoughts on it?
Yeah, I can go with it. Yeah, I know. We say that quality is everyone's responsibility, but who takes that responsibility of like owning that, right? Like we say that, but I think it's hard to say everyone owns it. They definitely, personally, it's my experience always like has been like, even though we kind of preach that, we kind of say that, we still need people to remind all the time, like why we think that quality is everyone's responsibility. And I think on the teams that I've worked on, mostly it's been more like the things that I have tried is more of like sharing about what exactly quality is, because sometimes what happens is like we keep saying quality is everyone's responsibility, but then when people don't understand what exactly quality is, and they have in their mind that it is all about testing and tester is there for test that, so it doesn't fit right very well, and people won't go in very well with quality is everyone's responsibility. So I've always started with building that mindset of within the team, saying that what is quality and why. And then mostly I have been a solo tester on the team, so it's been not 100% very well, but at least people try to understand, right? Because I can't be the the blocker all the time, I can't test everything. So it's more of like sharing that knowledge within the teams, and just explaining, just kind of advocating all the time, trying to remind, because sometimes I feel like people, not wantedly or consciously, but sometimes they forget, because they they have their own responsibility of like developing a feature or maybe doing something else. So it's all about like, I think I've always tried on the teams trying to be more advocating about the things and sharing about testing and how it is different with quality. So I think these are few things that I've tried, and I know people forget, that we say quality is everyone's responsibility, but people keep forgetting it. So it's all about like refreshing, reminding, and advocating about that.
Wow, wonderful experience. I think getting quality everyone's responsibility mindset itself is a huge task, and I couldn't imagine being a solo tester how you were able to implement it. We would like to talk more about it probably in the future sessions. Thank you, Parveen. That was interesting. Anyone else want to take this question?
Maybe I'll just go, Manoj. So maybe an analogy here, so which always comes to my mind when people talk about the same statement, like quality is everyone's responsibility. It is similar to keeping your house clean, right? So it's similar to everyone's responsibility at home. Like everyone has to contribute to that. unless and until you can't seem to be like clean every day. So as Parveen mentioned, advocating is one point. So even I started doing the same. Like what we did is like we used to prepare some kind of training sessions to the entire project team, like how QA teams are working, because only then they'll understand like what are the best practices that we do and the knowledge repositories we maintain. So we educate them about all the best practices and even the retrospection, like what are the lessons learned based on our experiences, and to the entire project team, including the solution architect, developers, everyone. So that was really helpful in our case, and it was even productive. We had really good results after that, and they understood more about the QA lifecycle and their working culture as such. So that was something which was helpful for us. Thank you.
That was a wonderful analogy, Pricillia. Thank you so much. I might use it on one of my talks later. And I'll be sure to credit you on that.
Okay.
Cool. Anyone wants to take? Let's take one more and then we can jump into the other question.
I can go next.
Sure.
Yeah. So from my experience, we can quality is everyone's responsibility. Basically, we just if there's any issues in the product. So mostly what happens, which I have seen, like the QA is kind of blamed, or they are under pressure, like why this issue was missed and all that. So since I'll share one experience of my project where we implemented this quality is everyone's responsibility, and how developers and BAs also got involved in that. So one thing which we did was we tried to implement the testing pyramid and all its layers properly. Like developers used to write unit tests and integration tests, and the QAs would write the API test and the user end-to-end user journey tests. And we also came up with the concept like a build monitor. So we assigned anybody from the team to be a build monitor and monitor the pipelines, like whenever there is any failure, so they can raise the red flags in the team, like something is failing. So accordingly, developers and QAs can go in and debug and see like what issues are there, and the developers can accordingly create a fix for that. Apart from that, we also had a practice of doing a bug batch like every couple of months to see like where all the team together comes and drills the application, whether it is a BA, QA, or devs. All of us will just join in a one session, like a 1 hour and a half or an hour session, and we will just batch the applications and see like how many bugs we can find in that. So that's how we try to show this that all the team is responsible for the quality. And lastly, we also made a practice of demoing the changes which we have done to the stakeholders. Like devs can do the demo one time, QA can do the demo on the other time. So like that's how we implemented this practice in our one of the projects.
Cool. Thanks for saying. That's quite an interesting and as well as different angles to it. It's interesting, Wasiq, you touched upon different sorts of testing, and as well as how unit testing and all that testing happens, where most of things is automated. So with that, I just wanted to go into one of the statements that I've seen a lot of executives thinks about. Automation is a new normal. So Brijesh, maybe you could share your thoughts on it. How true is the statement, automation is the new normal? While there is no discounting the role of manual testing or exploratory testing, how true is the above statement? According to you, is the industry where it should be in terms of test automation?
First of all, you will hear some background noise. I have a very excited 4-year-old getting ready for a Christmas dinner party. So you will, of course, hear some background noise. So bear with me, please. This is a very interesting question. Automation, in my opinion, is absolutely the new normal. Okay, you cannot think of a situation where you are testing in today's world without automation playing a very important role. Yes, there are points where you need human intervention. For example, if you talk about end-to-end tests, there are humans at both the ends. So we have to consider the humans at both the ends of the end-to-end test. However, in the middle, what you are doing focuses a lot on automation. As I mentioned in the changes that we have seen in the technologies that have happened in 2022, with the focus shifting more on the very tech side of industries, impetus has been increasing on how you can bring in automation, use it more effectively. Now, this is not just restricted to maybe writing some scripts and executing them. It is about CI/CD pipelines. How well you integrate those. How do you generate your test data? Test data needs have always been dynamic. You cannot rely on traditional human models to generate that amount of test data. You need automation to help you there. Okay, then comes in your test analysis. Okay, where now people are using AI, and ChatGPT is one big example of that, where you can ask for ideas as to how to analyze using automation. You can see code doing its magic in terms of test reporting as well. So it's not just limited to test case execution. Write a bunch of tests and then write corresponding scripts and then you run them. That was a thing of the past. We've seen trends towards adopting more and more automation in terms of pipeline integrations. In fact, your entire infrastructure as code is one big example of how the industry is moving towards automation. So it is a very important thing, and I completely agree with the statement of automation being the new normal in today's world.
Okay, so I would like to add a couple of points from my side as well. Definitely, totally agree with Brajesh. The test automation is a new norm, and it's not a bubble at all. If it is a bubble, it would have been burst already, but definitely. But I would always say that our roots are the QA. Ultimately, end of the day, we are testers. You cannot do 100% automation, which is absolutely a myth. Doesn't matter what kind of automation that you are doing or what kind of tool or technology that you are using it. So this is absolutely myth. You cannot beat exploratory testing with automation, where we really need to consider manual testing is a major important factor to perform the exploratory testing or the customer point of view testing that we have to do. But yes, automation is a new norm because of it's making your life easy, making your testers' life easy. You are majorly focusing upon the critical part, where most of the happy path scenarios or the regression scenarios you are running through automation. But there are a couple of important things that I would like to highlight, that your automation is just a garbage code. If you're not running it regularly, if you're not running it on a regular interval basis, it's just a garbage code. You are not integrated with the main CI/CD pipeline. It's not getting triggered. Once the build is created, once the pipeline is available, once the deployment is done, and still your test cases are not getting triggered, it's giving you 70-80% of the red marks, just a failure, and then there is no maintenance, there is no tech debt about automation. It's a big failure. So I think, yes, automation is a new norm with the right approach, with the right mindset. That is what that we have to add. But at the same time, the manual testing, we cannot forget, we cannot exclude that manual testing will be vanished from the market, or it will be disappeared from the market. It's not going to happen. I've been listening this thing from last 10-15 years, and exactly same thing, that we cannot survive without the manual intervention for the complex and the larger systems. If you're doing automation, target a good coverage with a stable code, with a stable code coverage, with a stable test coverage, and do a lot of maintenance so that it's making your life easy and you can concentrate on the main focus on the regression that is important for the business point of view. I think with this approach, definitely I can say test automation is a new norm.
Yeah, I mean, to add to that, I mean, I would be the devil's advocate in my response. Yes, it is the new normal, but it have a big but, right? We still going away with this concept that it's because the new normal, when we start something, it must all be automated. But we forget one thing: not everything could be automated. Nice to start with. Because what people just forget is cross-system testing. When I have to get a response from one system and check it on somewhere else. Yes, it is, and adding to what both Naveen and Vishal states, adding on to it, it is normal in the sense that once, especially when coming to maintenance and refactoring.
Exactly.
If you have a test set and you're running that, but then within that time frame, they have updated, let's say, I don't know, the version of Postman, just for argument's sake, or LambdaTest bring out a new driver that is do some magical stuff, and your test running in this projection, and you're not bringing in all these other bits and pieces and refactoring out all the old ones, and as well as looking at the tests that you have written and all the things that have been added to the system, and if those tests are still relevant. Because having 1,000 test cases giving you green doesn't mean your system working correctly. That doesn't mean that at all. We need to pay a lot of attention to refactoring code, ensuring that what we actually have is correct to what is actually there now, and not what it was, let me say, a week ago, just for argument's sake. And that's something we need to pay attention to. And as QAs, especially because no matter what happens, I've never yet went to a meeting where they say it is the developer fault. There's always say the QA missed that. Always. That is the is a point I call always. We get blamed for everything. Yeah. And we need to start looking at it from the point of view of, what, I know they're gonna come at me. So what could I do to ensure that they come at me less? And to do that, we need to, it's hard, but it's something we need to do. We need, especially with automation, because we will manually, like I say from the start, not everything is automatable at all. But what we have automated, we need to start to pay attention to, is it correct to this stuff, or do we need to get rid of that and write a new whole test? And what I find now is that a lot of the QAs out there, no offense to some of them, is that we lazy. We're lazy. Oh, I don't write a test for that already. And we wouldn't say, how could I improve this test, get rid of that one, and write a new one? And that is something that we need to, in this space, we need to pay attention to. So it is correct in that sense.
Go ahead,
Yeah, I'll take only 30 seconds. Absolutely agree with Larry. Whatever 30%, 40% you are targeting for automation, you should make sure that it is actually reliable. You have to focus upon it. There is a concept like return of investment, ROI or automation. The management is having some expectation that we have hired you for the automation. We are expecting some results from you in terms of automation, in terms of good coverage. Because in the agile space, every sprint, we have to execute a test automation. Every day there is a release. We really need to get the results as quick as possible, as soon as possible. And we have to make sure that whatever the framework that we are developing, instead of doing the fancy stuff, just launching the browser is not automation. We really need to write a good coverage in terms of good assertions and the validations. And one small thing, I think management also should also understand the value of automation. There's a lot of pressure. I'll talk to a lot of candidates, a lot of pressure coming from the management side also that, okay, no, automate 80%, 90%. Over the night, you develop this framework. Over the night, you try to adopt this thing and then do that. No, maybe because they are not aware of it. Maybe they are not having very much knowledge about the automation. I think it's time to be vocal about it. Time to talk about it, that what is the value of automation, where exactly we can use automation. It's not like everywhere we are doing and putting the automation stuff and putting the pressure, and then we are not, end of the day, we are not getting any, appropriate results from automation.
Manoj, just 2 sentences. I know you are eager to move to the next question, but just 2 sentences. I think in this question, the audiences who know us would have seen a role reversal between Naveen and me, which is always good. But the second point that I wanted to make is, while automation is an investment, what we call as manual testing or exploratory testing is insurance. So to sustain a good life, you need both insurance and investment. You cannot do just one and ignore the other one. That's all I would like to say.
Wonderful. Thank you so much. I know this question itself is worth talking 1 hour. We'll bring in a lot of perspectives. I think to summarize, I'm just going back to Pricilla's analogy before, quality is everyone's responsibility. I think she pick an analogy of keeping the house clean. I think as Brijesh mentioned, automation is no more just a workflow, right? I mean, writing test case and executing, and at the end of the day, your job is done. It's not anymore on that. I think expanding from that, automation should be used judiciously wherever possible. I think Naveen was touching upon garbage, whatever code if you're written, if it's not being used up to the mark, it's garbage. So, keeping the house clean, garbage, it's all about, you could either clean with your broomstick or use, vacuum cleaners, which is robotic automation itself, to use it. And as Larry mentioned, to piggybacking on that, if you're not using it properly without proper maintenance and refactoring, that end-to-end perspective, even if you trust the device, there might be a chance, there'll be some dust left. And it's up to, every individual needs. If there is a toddler, you will even though you use those machines, you will manually clean yourself. I think that's where it lies. And thank you so much, everyone, for sharing those insights. I think there's a lot of questions coming in from attendees. Thank you so much for keeping that interactive. I'll pick a question from the audience. Hina is asking, how important to learn tool-based on trend? Because every day we find new tools and technology comes up. How can we cope up with new learning?
Can I take that one?
Okay, Larry, you want to go?
Yeah, okay, and well, ladies first. You go for it. Go for it.
Thank you. Thank you so much. You're kind. Okay, so first point, I really need to agree that this is really tiring and exhausting. I know, keep on learning the new tools and technology. That is really tiring, and we understand the pain of all of us, because we as a testers, being into this industry for years, personally, I have felt the pain. What I would say is, like, even one funny quote also, which I can say is, like, people say that when you finish your school, maybe you can stop learning, and when you finish your college, you can stop learning. We have been brought up in that way, but now we realize, like, even till 40 or 50, we can't stop learning, and once we stop learning, we feel like we are being retired, right? So what I would say, is, of course, you need to keep growing with the trend, but instead of following the tool, I would suggest go behind the technology. Say, for example, I would quote here as API testing. So when we take API testing, I want you to understand the basics of API testing. Understand where does API testing come in a picture, and what are the technical jargon people are talking about it. And don't rely on single tool. If you are being so strong about the basics, I believe any tool, because testers, I strongly believe that testers have the magical power of ruling a tool in a day or two. So obviously, any tool we can, based on that kid mindset, whatever we have inside us, we can learn the tool very fast. Only thing is, like, learn the concepts. The basic and foundation is very mandatory. Similar to, like, what we talk about, like automation, we always believe, like, testing basics are mandatory, right? You need to know how really testing works. And the same way, you need to know the fundamentals and basics of whatever tools and technologies coming up. And to cope up with that, the second point I was trying to come to that, to cope up with that, I would say, like, to pick a trend and learn, try to do your research based on your passion, and you should make that your passion should match with your organization or your client interest as well, right? You cannot just learn just because someone is going behind that trend. So pick a tool, a technology where it matches your passion and also your current need of your next job or for next place or next role. And when you learn something new, if you can't work it in your project, try to build a kind of side project, I would say, like your own project, even in GitHub or something, because that gives you a strong knowledge, right? And then the second point is, like, try to teach someone else. Like, I always believe it, like, when you are able to teach a concept to a 5-year-old, you are really strong in that, right? Because when you are able to sell the content to a kid, it means, like, you are really well versed in that. So when you're trying to learn something new, and when you're trying to educate or teach someone else, you can start with your team. Of course, you start with your team. It doesn't literally mean that you have to go to your 5-year-old or 4-year-old. I was just telling as an analogy here. So when you start educating people, then I strongly believe, like, it helps you to keep up that learning for a longer while, like either blogs or webinars, any sort of content that you can start contributing back to the community. That's how I can keep up the learning, Manoj. That's it.
Yeah, I mean, in terms of learning trends, I tell everybody that I interview, and I like to actually tell them at that interview stage. The thing about trends and things is, every 6 months something new is coming in the market, and you don't need to learn them all. You don't. You actually don't. What it is what you need to do is, you need to utilize the space you're in. So you need the JavaScript. So what you should do is just pay attention to what's happening in the JavaScript ecosystem. And when you have some spare time, look at what's happening in the other ecosystems. Just look. always keep ahead, because the way it is now is that anything that happens in one ecosystem jumps into the other one eventually. So it's just a matter of always keeping a look over the fence to see what's new and what's happening, but pay attention to what's happening in your ecosystem and make your learning kind of focal, if I would use that word, kind of focal. So you living in this particular eco, you learn that to stay there, and like I say, just pay attention to the other things, and to just at the Pricillia thing, and I just use that all the time. Once you could tell it to somebody else and make them understand, that means you learn it enough that you can move on to the next new thing.
Yeah, so I'll add another very small point here. I absolutely agree with Larry and Pricillia that so whenever there is a new tool is coming, I think awareness is very important. It's not like that you cannot rely on one automation tool. I think you should have make sure that you are making hands are dirty and trying different tools you should know about, because once you have more and more experience in the industry, people are expecting you should have that level of maturity that, okay, maybe that these are the limitations in that particular tool, and that another tool is coming in the market and then taking care of those limitations. How can we implement that? And I totally agree with Pricillia that when you teach someone, if you're not getting an opportunity to teach someone, maybe you can talk and you can have some discussion, do some brainstorming session with your colleagues or maybe some friends, write some blogs, maintain your Git repository, write some Medium blogs, maintain your own domain, and then share some knowledge about it. There are like social medias full of knowledges these days. And then do some research about it, make some videos about it, and then share it with the others. So it will, when maybe after a couple of 6 months or after 1 year, when you are going to use that particular tool, then those blogs and those teaching and those notes will definitely help you to understand that. But I won't prefer that a new tool is coming in the picture and then we are just ignoring it. I think we should know about it. What are the different new trends in the market these days? It's not like with only single technology, I cannot rely for the next 5 years.
Wonderful insights. I hope that answered your question, Hina. Thank you so much. Next question that I'm going to pick up is a common question that I'm sure you have been facing in different forums. Do you see the impact of AI ML already, specifically on testing? Can you share your thoughts? We could start with Wasiq or Brijesh.
I can go first if it's okay.
Yep.
Yeah. So Larry mentioned at the start the new kid on the block, ChatGPT. A new revolution, but being a technology skeptic, I have always had my own doubts about any upcoming technology or trend or process. Even when 20 years back when I started with Agile, I was Agile skeptic, and now I am a full-on advocate of Agile. And similarly with AI ML, I have my skepticism. I still believe that AI and ML are in a state of nascency. And there is a lot of work that needs to be done in terms of developing to a level where we could have 100% confidence on them. Even with ChatGPT, there is seemingly a lot of reliance in terms of getting code written. It writes some very good code. We've seen that already. But does it solve all our problems? Definitely not. Is it good enough to be called as a conversational AI tool? Probably not. So there are areas where a lot of work is needed. And in terms of AI and ML coming in the way of testing, we've already seen a lot of tools using AI and ML, a lot of self-healing being involved using AI ML in these tools, visual regression, AI being used for that. So there is a lot of scope. There is definitely a lot of work that is happening, and one cannot simply ignore. The idea is to try and learn what is going on, what is happening in the background. It is always advisable to learn the concepts behind it so that when something new happens, you know exactly what is happening. For example, if somebody is interested in testing out ChatGPT, you must know what is GPT and what is GPT-3 and 3.5 and so on and so forth, and try and learn it from that perspective, understand what is going on. So it is something that we cannot ignore, and something we should brace ourselves up to.
Thanks, Brijesh.
I can go next.
Sure, Wasiq.
Yeah. So from the AI and ML having impact on testing, it is like I would say it is still in an initial stage. I would say, like we have seen like many applications currently, taking the advantage of AI ML, but with testing, it will be coming coming to pace. Like we can see like self-healing locators. Some kind of framework will come up with self-healing locators, auto recovering from a flaky test failure, and such kind of things will we will see. There might be some tools which are doing that. Apart from that, we can also see AI and ML helping us in generating the test cases for our applications, test data dynamically, depending on the what user interface or what API we will be testing. According to that, it will kind of generate some kind of a combination for our testing and help us in that. Apart from that, the most important area which AI and ML can help us is in the reporting front, where it can try to it can auto triage and auto categorize the failures, and like identify the failing trends, like exactly why the tests are failing, and if there is any pattern in that failure, it can identify those and help us understand those from that. Apart from that, I can also see like the tools like GitHub Copilot also helping us in automation, right? Writing the automated test script by understanding our coding pattern. So it will automatically adapt to our coding pattern. It will suggest accordingly, like how we can speed up the automation scripting on that part. So I feel like it is still growing, and we can see a lot of improvements which will help us in testing.
Sure, Wasiq, thank you so much. And Prajesh for adding some inputs onto that. I think I wanted to slightly move into the next question, but before that, since we have been talking about it more, I think at the beginning of the webinar, I told the panelists that I have a surprise element that I want to break. I don't know if it'll be any more surprise, because you all have used this term in some way. That for a moment, I want to take a pause, and I wanted someone else to be the host and ask a question. But before that, yeah, the idea is someone else will ask a question. I don't want to reveal who that someone is. Who wants to answer that question before even knowing what the question is? Are you up for that challenge? Who wants to? Okay, I see 2 hands, 3 hands. Okay, cool. Let me show you. The host is none other than the ChatGPT. This is something that I've already planned, and let's see how this is going to question. Okay, let me put it up. So the question that I'm asking is, hey, imagine that you're the host for LambdaTest end of your panel discussion on the theme that we are speaking now. And I'll ask a unique question for, maybe let's start Naveen. I hope I'm spelling it right. So Naveen, that's the question. Okay, that's interesting. This is what the testing is all about.
I think, okay.
Yeah. Oops, Larry. Let's see what ChatGPT could ask Naveen.
Potential question. In your experience, what do you think has been most impactful change in the testing and QA landscape in the past year? And do you think has such a significant impact? Looking at what do you see a biggest challenges or opportunity for testing the QA community in the coming year? Okay, I think it's having a 2 question that what is the biggest impact happened in the last past year, and why do you think it has such a significant impact? The first major impact happened, the revolution, the automation, because when I started my career, I started with the functional manual testing, where I used to write just simple test cases and raising the bugs and logging it. And after that, nothing. And it was like having that inferiority complex, and having that, that complex with the developers that, okay, hey, these people are writing the code, these people are talking about the tools and technologies, and then discussing, and then a lot of brainstorming, these people are doing it, but we are just focusing only on writing the test cases and then testing, and that's it. What is my job after that? Then somewhere started with the QTP, UFT, and then open source like Selenium and all such stuff. And I think that's a major thing happened in last couple of, especially from last 7-8 years, where Selenium came into the picture, and then a lot of other tools, and then people started looking into it, exploring about it. And now the more and more jobs got created in the QA, and people started hiring, companies started hiring, giving a really good package and compensation. I think that is a major change happened with respect to QA in the QA landscape. And the biggest challenge and the opportunity for the testing and the QA community in the upcoming years, that is the upscales of your skill set. I'm not worried about the AI and ML thing or whatever the chat GPT things are happening here, because I would consider them as a friend, not as an enemy. So I would say that the major challenge, you really want to survive in the market, because new generation is coming. You really need to match the level of the new things and the new tools. When we become the old school managers, I think we forget about the learning. So I think learning will be the major impact, major challenges, that we should always learn about the new stuff, upgrade your things, and then get that level of maturity so that you can handle a good technical team and automation team. I think that's the thing.
Wonderful. I'm sure ChatGPT would be happy with your answer. Next, Parveen, do you want to pick up this challenge?
Yep.
Okay.
Let's see what question I'll have.
Hopefully not the same question. This is where things get interesting.
It is thinking.
Yeah.
Same things.
I think it's this. Yeah, I'll try to regenerate response and see what happens. I think if I've actually tested this before, and if I remove the word unique in the question, I think it's faster. But I made it unique. I think it's been having some delays. Okay, here's an interesting one. Oh, more relevant. Go ahead, Parveen.
So let me read out. So there are two questions, right? Like, what is the biggest shift or change that has occurred, and how do you anticipate this change will continue to impact the industry moving forward? Yeah. I think still companies take, yeah. I think when we were talking a lot about, right, like how when we were trying to reflect on how 2022 was in terms of QA trends and stuff. So I guess it's more for me, I can see like the industry, the way QA is moving forward is like, we talk a lot of different terminologies, right? Like quality is everyone's responsibility, shifting left, shifting right. Like there are so many different terminologies that we talk about. So I feel like QA's role has shifted quite a lot, because I still remember back in those days, whenever we used to talk about testing, for me at least, I used to feel like testing is just manual testing and automation testing. Those were the only two biggest like dividing part, but now I feel like there's so many things a QA has been involved in, as Priscilla as well mentioned, right? Not just about any type of testing, but we are looking into accessibility, performance, and we are being more generalist. It's not about being specialist into one area or something. So it's like wearing the QA hat within the team and trying to drive the quality within the teams from every different aspect. It's not about just like, being there for exploratory testing or being there for automation testing or something like that, but we are looking at the product quality. I think that definitely the teams, the organizations are moving into this trend where QA is being involved into these different aspects, and not just that, not just shifting left or like trying to be early on, but also trying, now I feel like we are trying to see how these, whenever we are like releasing these features or something, how the users are using it. Like we're learning from the production, and we are then taking that feedback into our like in the processes, in the quality, in maybe in as part of the automation. So it's more of like the overall continuous loop. It's like the whole overall continuous loop of starting to test early, testing continuously, and testing in the right side. So I feel like this is the major trend. I see that in the next coming year or so, where tester is being more of like, being like a, as I said, like, quality advocate on the teams and sharing all about different types of quality related aspects.
Parveen, thank you so much. I think we are almost on time. I want to take up last two questions. The last one would be go around the table, so it'll be real quick. But before that, there's an interesting question from one of the attendees. It's an anonymous attendee. The question is: in the last few years, test automation pyramid has been in talks, in a lot of talks, doing more unit testing and API and less of a UI. How has been your experience in implementing the same testing pyramid in the recent project? Or rather, I would ask, is it still relevant? Do you see other trends coming up? Anyone can take up.
I can go.
Right.
Larry, please go ahead. Please go ahead.
No, I was gonna add to say that how we do it is yes. Yeah, the short answer is yes. You could transpose and move from project to project with the whole technology and the phrase. But it all depends on which bit of it. And by that, I mean, we build a framework for this project. And the project was fine, it's done, it's running. And then you have a next project start. And how do you now utilize that whole thing that you build into? Because from my point of view is, I say you build a framework for testing, and I use the word framework lightly. You build a framework for doing your testing in a particular project. It must be reusable. If it's not, then then you waste a lot of time and energy and resources in doing it like that. It must be able to transition out. It must be able to revolve, and that same framework must also be able to, in itself, revolve around everything new that's happening. So you don't need to rebuild anything, you just need to reuse, right? To reuse. So you find you have a framework that you're testing out, I don't know, wherever the project is. And whilst you're doing that as well, a certain new technology come into the market, and you must be able to use a simple word, chop and change. So you're doing API testing today and you're using, I don't know, GOT. But then tomorrow, Pactum.js or somebody else come on the market, your framework must be able to remove GOT, stick Pactum.js, and that must be transparent to the actual person who's using it. So it's a whole catch up and a match up and about keeping things that you were searching for all the time, modular, keeping it modular. So you could take things out, put new things in, and it must be transparent to the user who's using it. And that way it allows you to, like we say, transition out going forward.
Just do you want to quickly add before we wrap up?
Yes. So, being in the role of a consultant allows me the opportunity to work with a lot of customers, and each customer has their unique set of problems to be solved. However, in implementing the test pyramid, the biggest challenge is to make sure that, when we say more of unit testing, to get the developers to do unit testing. Okay, that's one of the biggest challenges. Also, in terms of skills, okay, we are constantly looking for testers with the right skills. They should be aware and skilled enough to work on those technologies. Now, there is a mad rush in the industry for learning particular tools and technologies based on trends. And whereas there is very little focus that is there on solving problems. So it is very important for testers to understand what kind of problems you're trying to solve. And based on that, choose the tool that you want to learn or want to use, rather than looking at somebody else and saying, hey, he's learning Selenium or Postman or whatever, so let me also do that. Okay, or so-and-so person has got a job which is, paying really well, and that's how it should be and all that. So, in short, my focus has always been in trying to make sure that people understand the problem and then try to find out solutions and choose the tools and learn appropriately to get the results.
Awesome. Thank you so much. Yeah, it's time to wrap up, unfortunately. It's been quite an interesting conversation with all of you. The last question that I want to ask everyone, let's go around the table very quick. what do you think will be the QA and testing trends in 2023? Maybe 2 words, 3 words, or a sentence is good enough. Let's go around the table. Let's start with Larry.
Since 2023 for me, I think a lot of emphasis will get placed on AI ML into the industry, and my simpler, and I just have one simple advice to add to that, is that if you're going to learn it, make sure that this is relevant to what it is you're actually doing.
Pricillia?
Due to these architectural changes, of course, I see API testing can evolve in many forms. I can see that many tools and the complete ecosystem are coming up. So I believe API testing and of course A and ML, low code, no code. And in the human side of testing, I would expect our testers to be like more confident enough. Like testers are being given respect in most of the project I could see. So in the human side, I'll be looking forward more of the a stronger or the confident testers as such, Manoj.
Wasiq?
Yeah. So the coming year, I would say like the QA needs to brace themselves to some new technologies or trends which we can see like in coming future, like a GraphQL. Maybe there will be plenty of GraphQL implementations will be there. Flutter applications will be coming up. AI ML applications like conversational applications or some kind of AR VR kind of applications will come up. So we need to come up with an innovative approach to test those kind of applications. Maybe we can see like increase in blockchain applications, some kind of a fintech application coming up with a complex architecture. So we need to brace ourselves on to find the innovative solutions to test those kind of applications.
Parveen?
Yeah, agree. Absolutely all those points. And I think more and more, I guess, more and more complex architectures that we'll be working on. So QAs need to embrace the new ways and new thinking around how to test and how to implement all those things related to quality. And I can see, I feel like I can see that a lot of more emphasis on human side of testing. And of course, more and more new tools that might come up, but we don't have to be scared of those, but try to see what we can use and what are just there to stay in the market. So yeah.
Naveen?
Yeah, so I'll start with I absolutely agree with all the points, but I start with the more of an adoption of cloud, like LambdaTest you guys are doing in terms of cloud vendor, because that's making, as an organization, that's making my life easy. I don't need to take care about any infrastructure and nothing. You guys are taking care of it. And, the hyper test execution and those technologies which are coming, which is like very exciting, which will make your regression automation test suite in a more advanced way, and quickly we are getting the results and we are delivering the right product at the right time with the better quality. And non-functional testing that I think you guys are already talked about in terms of security. So more emphasis on the security that last year happened in 2022, happened couple of instances with respect to like the Log4j and couple of other things happened where I think organization is more focusing on establishing their own security in the performance testing team so that they can check the vulnerability and the penetration testing instead of outsourcing to some other team. I think people are getting exposure about it. There are many new trends and the tools are available in the market. I recently had a word with like a Pint for the API security point of view in Postman, and then a 𝒂𝒏𝒐𝒋, and a lot of new releases are happening. And then other than that, I think the adoption of Agile and the DevOps practices is still in 2022, we saw a lot of webinars and conferences. People presented their ideas with respect to infrastructure on their own DevOps activities and on the cloud infrastructure. Like Selenoid came into the picture from last couple of years. And then I think in 2023, I can see more tools like Digi4 and a lot of other people are coming with the on the cloud where DevOps infrastructure, they really want to make it. I think in that area, QA should be really strong to understand, because if you really want to use those infrastructure, you really need to be good in those DevOps tools and technologies as well. So I think this is the main trend, at least I can see clearly in 2023. Other than that, Selenium, Cypress, everything will surely be there for them.
Thanks, Naveen. Last but not the least, Brijesh?
Well, the current trends that have started in 2022 are not going anywhere. They are here to stay. So of course, the focus is on low code, no code, and other stuff. But for testers, if you are trying to brace yourselves for 2023, don't lose sight of cloud. There is more and more businesses are going to move towards the cloud. Microservices, you need to understand how to do contract testing and other stuff. Okay, understand more of concepts like site reliability engineering, chaos engineering, pay more attention to that, because more and more businesses are going to experiment that way, and of course there is a need for constantly being able to test on the right side of the DevOps version. So shift right is going to gain focus, that is testing in production. Be aware of that, and like I mentioned in the beginning, we are seeing a rise in technologies such as simulation, sports tech, or AI-based systems. Okay, keep learning, keep yourself informed about that, and always question, how do I test this? Okay, how can I test it differently if it is being tested in one particular way? Like Naveen and others have mentioned, give your full attention to non-functional testing, security, performance, huge importance. Apart from that, focus on usability and scalability as well. So that's pretty much.
Wonderful. Thank you so much. I really love the last two keywords, usability and accessibility, not to forget. I think it's one of the core values of Spartans, being inclusive. So thank you so much, everyone, for being together and answering all of these questions. I know it might be getting late for a couple of you. And yeah, thank you so much for joining. And we wish you all happy holidays, Merry Christmas, and a happy and a prosperous New Year 2023. And thanks for everyone who's still on the webinar listening to all these answers from different parts of the world. And we will see you on the January 2023 edition of Voices of Community. Until then, stay safe and enjoy your holidays.
Thank you, guys. Have a happy holiday.
Thank you
Thank
everyone. Yeah,
you so
thank you,
much.
Manoj. Thank you, LambdaTest. Thank you, guys.
Thank you, everyone, and happy
Thank you,
Everyone.
guys.
Happy holidays, happy New
Happy
Year.
holidays.
Take care. Bye-bye.
Bye.
Thank you, folks. Thank you.
Thank you, guys. Bye-bye.